My guest today is Wesley Massumbukolt.
I'm part of Students Against Tyranny in the UK. You know what I mean? It's just a group of young people, students all across the UK who's against the agenda, against, the WEF plans, against, net zero, climate change, shifting menses, and cashless society, all those sorts. And we're based, Students Against Tyranny is sort of a safe space for like people like mainly like conservative Christian values, or values that are contrary to the mainstream. And that's what it is.
All right, very good. And you are 21 years of age, right?
Yeah, I'm 21.
Okay. And do you have a lot of time to devote to pushing back against the tyranny yourself?
Yeah, like specifically when I did my first year of university and like my second year of university, I had a few bits of time, to oppose tyranny and do a lot of like my activism work behind the scenes and, in different cities around the UK.
And you are studying automotive engineering right now?
Yeah, automotive engineer
All right.
at Sheffield University.
And what is, are they talking about global warming, for example, and you have to design cars to prevent bad weather, or is that not really part of what they talk about in class?
Nah, that's not in my course. The only thing that's sort of being pushed is like electric vehicles and driverless vehicles, but that's sort of about it. Like nothing really to say woke inside of my core.
So they're not trying to tell you that internal combustion cars are going away and let's not even worry about that. They're letting you work on real engines.
Talking a little bit about like spacing out internal combustion engines because, well, I was in a sort of competition thing, like just like 3 days ago called Formula Student. And there's more like electric vehicles than there were in previous years. And I mean, so many like electric vehicles and stuff. So there's that one, but nothing really too deep about phasing out combustion vehicles.
Okay. All right. And then
still studying like engines and that.
I first became aware of you when I saw that you had tweeted out doing some public outreach. You were out handing out leaflets, I think, and protesting against ULEZ zones or 15-minute cities. How did that go? And have you done much of that? And do people harass you, or do you get support, or how does that work for you?
So I think it's the outreach and Leeds you're talking about.
Yeah.
I was in Leeds. It was me and 3 other people, who was doing outreach at Leeds. It's basically a thing that we sort of carried over from COVID called sign, like where we have yellow signs and roundabouts. And where it's basically where drivers can come through, they see the signs and they basically sort of get like briefed on what their agenda is. And in that particular road in Leeds, there's traffic lights and you usually like stop the traffic lights. And then once the lights go red, you start handing leaflets to the drivers, and they wind down the windows and you hand leaflets to the drivers, and they grab the leaflets. Majority of people can't lie; they kind of queued up to the cashless society part of things. Like they don't want no digital currency. Like I've been trying to roach this, they mainly reacted positively. There's like 1 or 2 shouts, but not in like back in the COVID days, where it's like, back in the COVID days, we get people telling, go away, anti-vax, really, no. But this time is much more positive reaction. People know what's going on. So
interesting. So you're finding that people understand the dangers of CBDC, that they're aware of what that is?
Yeah, I think people are kind of understanding what's the dangers of CBDCs are. And as the government, pushes more and more of those restrictions, there's going to be a lot more people who didn't really know what's going on start to wake up to what it is. There's a thing in the UK now where they're phasing out ticket officers in rail stations across the UK. And we have one of the top unions, RMT. They're against that whole stuff. And even got councillors in different parts of the UK who are writing to the Department of Transport saying like, nah, we ain't with that. We ain't with shutting down tickets. So yeah, we're kind of getting a little bit of consistency in the UK.
Are you seeing any actual push for 15-minute cities? Any place you've been where they're like setting up barriers and that type of thing?
It's all around, yeah, it's all around the country than virus. Like specifically like the wooden bollards. There's Oxford, there's Canterbury. They're like the first two that kind of pioneered the stuff. And then you get the clean air zones, which the ULEZ that's existed in London since like Boris Johnson was mayor. But now we have like other cities like Newcastle and Sheffield and Bradford and Bath introduced, and Glasgow introduced their own sort of clean air zone where it's like you have to pay to get inside the city center by car, unless you comply with certain, engine Euro 6 engine requirements for sustainability and some dumb stuff like that. So, yeah, there's, and you also get like, especially in Wales, I think they're introducing the 15-minute city in a town called Burgess, and there's a 20-minute neighborhood being introduced in Leeds. So, kind of phasing it in bit by bit.
So they're actually doing this, already charging people, and are they looking at license plates, using the technology to check your license plate so they know if you're crossing the line, all that type of thing? It's starting to happen.
They have license plates. They have like license plate recognition cameras all across the zone. You know what I mean? Even before, I remember because I'm in Sheffield for university. Even before the Clean Air Zone went live on the 28th of February, like some of my friends would be sending me like, yo, I got a letter from Sheffield City Council talking about, oh, well, your car doesn't comply, but, we're not charging you now, but we will charge you once the Clean Air Zone is live. So I believe they already had the sort of technology in place before it even went live. So, yeah, they have all sorts of technologies. They have it in Manchester too, but they kind of paused on it for a moment.
And none of this stuff has been put to a vote, right? I can't imagine that the voters would say, sure, we want all this, we want you clamping down on us and restricting our ability to travel. Isn't it kind of being slid in the back door somehow? And people are just taking it maybe? What's going on there?
I don't know. I mean, the only reason why these councils are, pushing forward from these legislations in the first place is because they gain a truckload of money from the government to do it. And so it's like, they're telling you, okay, we're giving you a truckload of money. You have to put this thing as on the back in, you know what I mean? In order to keep receiving money. So I think that's why the councilors mainly ain't really like they're sort of pushing the stuff. But yeah, it's just a little bit like it's just money.
So
everyone can be bought.
I did not even know that. I thought that these council members on their own were coming up with this idea that they thought they were going to try to prevent bad weather, and this is the way to do it to stop people from driving their cars. But you're saying they're getting money from up above, and that's why this is happening.
The government is basically ordered the council to do this. Like the councils, like there's even some councillors who were against it for them, but majority agreed because, well, the money is coming from the government. Like we need to reduce air pollution. That's what they're saying. It's to reduce air pollution. We need to reduce air pollution. So you should put a clean air zone and charge all your motorists to drive inside the city.
Okay. And I've seen a couple, I'm going to throw out a couple names here. There's Sandy Adams and Rachel Matthews that I have seen on Twitter that they have gotten up at council meetings and they give this brilliant pushback against this craziness. What do you think of what they've done? Or does anyone from Students Against Tyranny, do you go to council meetings and talk for 10 minutes, anything like that?
I've been to one, I know someone called Debbie Hicks. Debbie Hicks, she went to a council meeting. I can't remember where. I think it's in either Swindon or Oxford. I can't remember, but she's been to a council meeting. I've been to one council meeting in Sheffield because back in, I think it was June or May, they were planning on charging taxi drivers because taxi drivers before June had an exemption. But now they're charging taxi drivers to drive around the city center. So I kind of was watching the taxi drivers because they stormed the town hall. I never even been town. Stormed the town hall. They went in, you know what I mean? Was in the council meeting, and yeah, they all spoke up and they were like, "Oh no, 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 we're not doing that. We're not complying to your regulation."
Oh.
So,
okay. So that pushback worked, it sounds like, or is it?
the council didn't really care. They were just like, "Oh, we need to save air pollution." They just put tropes in air pollution. We need to save air pollution. So I'm sorry, we can't complete your request. No. But,
Do you think most of the justification for this is a real air pollution, or are they talking about carbon dioxide and the weather's going to get too hot because of this? Or I'm wondering what justification are they using the most, or what are they pushing the hardest?
They're talking about, well, people are dying of air pollution. I can't remember the exact figures, but they're basically giving this trope about, oh, well, people are dying of air pollution, and they have this on the government website where they measure like air quality. But I remember like the air quality in Sheffield city centre, back when the cleanism was first introduced, was cleaner than Peak District, which is a rural part of the UK.
Oh.
It's cleaner than the Peak District, and they're forcing that in. Like,
amazing. I don't even know. Do they have?
It's the same thing in Leeds and Bradford, right? Leeds and Bradford are like this close to each other. So how comes Leeds rejected it, but Bradford didn't? Don't make sense.
I'm curious. I'm from Minnesota here in the U.S., and we had this deal where you had to bring your car in every year, and they would hook up an emissions tester, and they would either pass your car or you had to get a lot of stuff fixed. Do they have anything like that over there in the UK, where you have to bring your car in and test the emissions on each individual car?
I don't know if that's part of the MOT test we have in the UK, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is, because they're pushing to ban cars. I think it's like by 2030 that 2035 that the UK will ban all like petrol vehicles and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's part of the MOT test that they have. You have to bring your car into a mechanic or whatever, and they test it, like the car's functioning. But
all right. Let's talk about students against tyranny in general. I'm a big fan. I've just been looking at your website, and I really like the pushback, and I like the quote you have about the importance of pushing back there. It's written by Sophie Scholl, who was executed in 1943 for leading the student revolution against Hitler. I really like your pushback. Yeah. And how long has that organization been around, and how many people are in it? Can you tell us about it?
Students Against Tyranny. So that organization has existed since, I believe, 2021. James Harvey, he founded Students Against Tyranny as a response to COVID, because there's a lot of students in like universities and that are being pressured. Back then it was to take the vaccine, the COVID-19 jab, and there's been a lot of like peer pressure. I've experienced peer pressure. James experienced peer pressure, in universities, where it's like either the university itself or other students going, "Oh no, you need to get the vaccine or else, you're killing people." And no. So, yeah, we found Students Against Tyranny as a sort of like, I ain't trying to say safe space, but it's some sort of like rubber to connect like-minded students together, and, right now, the Telegram has like 2.4 thousand, subscribers in the Telegram. And nowadays, we're moving into more like activating-based spaces where it's like 15-minute sitting protests, CBDC protests, and, protests against like wokeism in general, free speech on campuses. I think Saturday there's the honor roll where we oppose exactly story time, stuff like that. But yeah, that's basically the whole premise of Students Against Tyranny. We're building a more real resistance to, the narrative. Because like young people are going to be the ones that are, like my generation are going to be the ones that are like getting into office and making a major political decision. So if it's going to be guys like Tifa running stuff and, or them lot running stuff in parliament and taking major political decisions, there's going to be problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I really like what you're doing. It gives me hope for the future that I see people that are your age that are saying sane things and pushing back against the craziness. I love what you're doing. Uh, are universities trying to shut you down, or are they trying to not let you meet on campus, anything like that, or are they letting you speak freely?
Some universities have, like Manchester especially, that's a big one. There's Manchester where there's Antifa. We had a free speech protest in Manchester last month on the 10th of June. And basically it was because of this guy called John Christian. He's been denied assessment of his PhD because of his views about, trans and George Floyd and Black Lives Matter and all sorts like that. And there's heavy Antifa presence. They came to the campus and they basically tried to shut us down. Didn't really, I ain't trying to say didn't really allow us because we actually spoke. And on the 10th, basically, on the 10th, we did overpower Antifa in terms of noise. But there's a heavy Marxist presence among universities to the point where people feel afraid to speak out what they have in their heads for fear of being canceled. You know what I mean? Even in Edinburgh, I met someone at Edinburgh and she told me that there's a lot of critical race theory and, all this woke garbage in universities. And the teacher told her to introduce herself with pronouns. And I'm just like, that is nuts. But we're quite small, but we're growing in numbers. Growing quite quick as well.
So when you do a protest, or do you get any at all coverage from the mainstream media? Because I can't help but notice that you're about the same age as Greta, 1 year apart, and Greta gets absolutely white hot publicity every time she says anything. Everybody knows it, and you get less publicity, don't you? Even though you're saying same stuff and her stuff is crazy.
Yeah, we only get at most we get local newspapers such as the Manchester Mail or Wales Online, local newspapers, but nothing really to the tune of mainstream media. We get stupid, hope not hate garbage, all these anti-fascist end quote people covering. That's about it. No mainstream, not into the tune of Greta Thunberg.
Yeah, so
any of these establishment figures.
So far, the BBC is not calling you yet, are they? The BBC doesn't want us to know that you exist. Yeah.
No.
Okay, let's see.
They're scared as well. That's why they're not even covering. They're probably scared that. Oh.
Let's see. So James Harvey founded Students Against Tyranny, or is that right?
Yeah, James Harvey. Yeah.
Okay. Do you get to see him in person much? I think you're pretty far apart physically. So do you meet up?
Yeah, I see him sometimes. Last time I saw Jim, when was the last time I saw Jim? It wasn't on. It was, I think it was Oxford, when we had the campus debates with him, and it was Debbie Hicks and it was Paul Burgess.
Oh.
I think that was the last time I saw Jim. I might be seeing him again Saturday as well for the Black event. Yeah, he gets about. So it's all over the country.
All right. Yeah, I was just going to bring up that name, Paul Burgess. He has a climate realist channel. He's all about climate realism, right? He's got a good YouTube channel. He's going to be on my podcast talking about climate specifically. How did you get connected with him? And have you met him in person? And
first time, Oxford was the first time I met Paul Burgess. Well, James is really close with Paul Burgess. He had, I don't know if it was some sort of presentation. That was way back. Last year, I believe. He had some sort of presentation about climate change and the thought of net zero and all that. And he's made, think he spoke at Cardiff as well for the 15-minute city rally. But yeah, Paul Burgess is cool. He's very knowledgeable as well, especially when it comes to like nuclear energy and all sorts of like energy systems and what they're proposing as an alternative to like fossil fuels and stuff. It's very knowledgeable on the subject.
Yeah, so that also makes me happy that a guy like that is getting connected with groups like yours. I think that's hugely positive. Very happy to see that. I was wondering if you are connected with other UK groups, like there is a Car 26 group with Lois Perry. There's Net Zero Watch with Andrew Montford. There's also other groups called the CO2 Coalition. Are you hearing from them at all yet? Or I think that would be great if you could hear from them. Yeah.
I have not known about any of these groups. So yeah, a lot of these groups, it gives me joy that a lot of these groups are coming out against, you know what I mean, all this net zero tyranny. So yeah, it would be cool for me. It's for us as students against tyranny to connect with them, because young people have this sort of like convenience bias where it's like, oh, it's convenient for us now. But when, you know, stuff comes in and the whole, you know, the privacy is being wrenched off and your privacy is gone and your autonomy is gone, they won't be talking about convenience now. I think they're going to look in there and it's like, what have we gotten ourselves into?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do want to see us get more connected. I've been doing this podcast thing for about a year, and I've been totally plugged into just pushing it back against the climate scam for a long time. And I kind of figured that anybody else who's really been pushing back, I must have heard about them already. But I found out, I discovered all sorts of people in the last year, tons of people who have been dedicated to this issue. And I never heard of them. I never heard of anything they were doing. So I think there's a lot of that still going on where there might be people maybe not that far from you that are that you should be connected with. I think I'm hopeful that we can get connected and maybe help each other out. What can we do to help you out? Like we can donate to your organization on your website, retweet your stuff. What do you think? What would you like to see, people? I'm sitting thousands of miles away from you. Is there anything we can do from this distance to help you out?
Yeah, obviously there's a donate button on our website. Yeah, it's like we need to get more like young people doing activism out in the streets, because the minute that young people stand up to what is going on, it's finished. Because they no longer have control over the next generation. They no longer have control over our heads. So it's like the minute that happens, it's finished. And I feel like a lot of people here, like we got our own lives as well. Like I have university, yeah, but I make music for on the side and all sorts of that. But I also get up and do acting because it's like, it's mainly our futures on the line. Like my generation, maybe the generation above us, our futures on the line. And like, we have to live our working years in this, you know, WEF, you know what I mean? Like medical, technological tyranny. So, yeah. There's donate buttons. There's our Telegram group. You can always like subscribe to our Telegram group. Just type in students against tyranny on Telegram, you get there. We on Instagram and students against tyranny, and Twitter. There's my account. There's James' account as well. But
okay, I see that one thing that you're doing that a lot of us aren't doing is you're actually physically going out there and handing pieces of paper to people and putting up banners and stuff. I think maybe that's a thing that more of us need to be doing, to physically get outside. Or what do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah, more outreach needs to be done, because it's cool tweeting on social media and stuff and putting on Instagram stories, but it's like at the end of the day, like you see the chaos that's going down in big tech. Like it's crazy with the censorship and algorithms and how they're mishing and mashing the algorithms and all that sort of stuff. So it's like a lot of people ain't really being heard at the moment, especially with Twitter, how Elon Musk is moving and switching it to X and all that stuff. So I feel like it's much more effective going out and facing the public and, facing public scrutiny and going out in the street and having them educating the people of what's going on. Like there's some people who ain't even got social media. There's some people who do not see our tweets because of the algorithm. So it's like they're left in the dark to what's actually going on. So I feel like there should be more like street activism going on, leaflets, maybe like what my friend Shar is doing, like posting it on people's homes, all sorts of stuff.
Can you talk a little more about that, about posting on people's homes, or what do you mean there?
Yeah, just like my friend Shar, right? He's from Yorkshire, and he mainly like he has the leaflets and he like goes on people's front door where the mailbox is. Like he just puts it on people's front doors. I mean, there's also rebels and roundabouts, and there's also like regular outreach where we just like hand leaflets to people and like educate them on what the agenda is. So that's it. Yeah.
Okay. So in your normal student life, or just as you're dealing with regular people in the real world, do you get the sense that young people in the UK think that they shouldn't have kids because the kids are going to get burned anyway and they don't have any future? Do you hear much of that type of talk, or people just are kind of ignoring this issue? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of they ain't really directly saying, "Oh, I'm not having kids because of climate change," but there is an anti-child attitude to universities. I mean, people ain't really like, they don't really care that much about family. They're more prioritizing careers and prioritizing like, just hedonism and nihilism, all sorts of like escapism, where it's just like they're taking out the dark, and there's mainly a bunch of that, and they got brainwashed to think that, oh, kids are bad, oh, it's gonna restrict me, it's gonna ruin my life, it's gonna pause my life up, and blah blah blah. So there's a lot of that. Well, I don't think it's, oh, I'm not having kids because of climate change type talk. I don't think.
Okay. From your perspective, do you have any thoughts on how the next 10 years might play out in the UK in terms of, are they going to just clamp down and get the 15-minute cities really clamped down, or CBDC, all that type of stuff? Any ideas or thoughts on where it's going?
Well, Oxford is 2024. They're trying their 15-minute neighborhood in 2024. So it's that. There's more of the cashless society stuff. You know what I mean? Like, well, mainly they've pushed this since COVID. Like, once the lockdown hit, then they started pushing the stuff, and they made 90% of ticket machines cashless and all sorts of stuff like that. But in terms of the next 10 years, I feel like that they will be pushing this stuff, but it will not be done without like some major resistance. Like, there's going to be some major resistance. It's like people who were conspiracy theorists for 2020 and they're just going along with their normal lives. Nowadays, it's like, if you ain't a conspiracy theorist, like, where were you, bro? Where were you in the last few years? Like, it's that stuff like that. Like, people who didn't really care about politics, now all of a sudden getting active. Like, I have not protested until 2020. Like, I was just a regular dude. Like, I knew about it, but I wasn't really out on the street until 2020. So it's like, there's a lot more people sort of getting active. And it died down a little bit, where I think it's beginning to pick back up, especially with the phasing out of cash. Like, I don't think people really, gunning for a cashless society.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I look back at myself from about 3 years ago, and I can't believe how naive I was, and that I was just like the person you're describing, that whatever, I was all trusting, and I was not a conspiracy theorist. But things have changed a ton. I think there's a lot of us out there who have gotten their eyes open in the last 3 years. What else did I forget to ask you about that I should have asked you? Or what other messages you want to get out there?
Messages, man, like, to all the young people, man, like, get out in your city and educate your people about what's going on. Because it's like, once that hits, it's going to be like people, like, especially like Black people, that complain about slavery. Oh, 400 years of slavery is this, man. I'm like, it's going to be worse than slavery, because now you have nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. It's like, it's a global thing. You know what I mean? It's a global agenda. And all countries, it's not just the UK, it's not just the United States. Maybe they're the first to do it, but in 10 years' time, it's going to be implemented even like in the third world, in developing nations. You know what I mean? So now you have nowhere to hide. So, you know what I mean? Like, you go and speak your truth. Like, don't worry about whatever people, like some internet troll or Antifa typing on Twitter. Don't worry about what these guys are thinking. Because number one, you're probably not going to see them again. And number two, is like, you're being inauthentic and you're lying just to please other people. That does not make any sense. So, yeah, don't worry about what anybody thinks, right? And get out and speak out against the agenda, you know what I mean? And whatever they throw at you, there's US Against Tyranny, there's other groups, youth groups all across the UK, there's Youth for Freedom. Like, we're here to help, man. Like, yeah.
So what you're thinking is that it's easy to kind of go with the flow until it really impacts our actual lives, right? That's what I'm getting that impression, that once they actually start people seeing the impact of this craziness, they can't travel as much as they want, or they can't buy meat or whatever. At that point, hardly anyone will stand for it. I'm hoping. Do you agree with that?
Yeah,
once it really impacts.
Yeah, because that's what happened with the taxi drivers in Sheffield.
Yes.
Once the council was like, okay, we're going to charge taxi drivers now, they were like, oh no, we're not standing for this. And like people were talking about striking and striking during the school run and all sorts. So I feel like once it actually grabs people and people's pockets are getting drained, they ain't really go. They can't really buy food like they usually now. They'd start. I mean, doing something about it.
I'm curious. Do you spend a lot of time thinking about who really does want this future? Who really is pushing it? The Bill Gates of the world. I don't spend too much time thinking about that. I'm just curious about what you think.
Well, like who runs who's
who really is in charge of pushing all this, like all over the UK?
I have no idea, to be quite honest. I mean, I know there's C40 Cities, which is run by the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. But in terms of like who's actually running the 50-minute C things, I'm just like, I don't know. Probably the government.
Okay. All right.
Probably Westminster. I don't know.
Very good. All right. I think that's about it. I'm about ready to wrap up if you are. This has been really good stuff. I totally enjoyed talking to you. Huge fan of your work.
Yeah. Wait. No, it's out. So like my DMs are open all time. If there's any young people who's in need of any like support or, you know what I mean, they want to show this lean on, I'm always here, you know what I mean? I'm out 24/7 against this thing, you know what I mean? I'm not looking to slow down anytime soon. Like, there's going to be an army in 5 years. Watch, Students Against Tyranny is going to turn into a whole army around the UK, where it's like, no one here, like, it's going to be a real opposition to the message. It's going to be a real opposition to what they're pushing right now with the with all sorts of the agenda. And that's where I'm trying to get SAT to be. And that's why I joined back in 2021, like late 2020. So it's going to be good. It's going to be massive.
All right. Thank you so much for the work you're doing. You're doing fantastic stuff. I really appreciate it. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right. Goodbye.